In a couple minutes, everyone's just grabbing a drink, and then
Tough
Brian
one
will.
yesterday. I wanted that 2 seed.
I know it was pretty hard to be at work last night. I'm pretty tired this morning. It's rough watching the Bears game right next to it all go
Oh,
down.
yeah.
So Tanner did great though. He gave up a good fight.
I think we were undefeated in the Kelly Greens until this year. I think we lost twice. Oh.
There's always a day.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Do you go to all the games, Linz?
I do all the home
Never.
games. I'm
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I try to hit at least two a year. Take my kids to at least two a year.
Nice.
My brother lives across the bridge in Jersey, and instead of getting a hotel, we just buy him a ticket, crash with him, and make a good
There you
weekend of
go.
it.
There you go. All right, Brian, why don't you kick us off?
All right, everybody, it's my pleasure to introduce Lindsay Hartig. Go Bird. Lindsay is a 2006 graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point and holds a master's degree in sports management from the University of Florida. She currently works with the world champion Philadelphia Eagles, Go Birds, in fan experience and game day event operations, helping create meaningful and memorable experiences for fans. And I've witnessed that because, like I said, I've been to many games, and it's an unbelievable experience. In addition to her professional work, Lindsay continues her commitment to service as a senior military family advisor for the 1-307th Infantry Battalion. A military spouse, Lindsay brings both personal and professional insight to her advocacy and leadership. In recognition of her dedication to service, which this is actually amazing, she was named the Philadelphia Eagles, Go Birds, 2025 Salute to Service nominee. So please join me in welcoming Lindsay to Seven Eagle.
Good morning, everyone. Brian, thank you so much. Jordy, also want to thank you both for the warm welcome and Happy New Year to all our veterans on the line. I'm super excited to share a little bit about my story, what Brian already kind of alluded to, some of my professional achievements, but it's been quite the journey to get to the birds, and hasn't been streamlined at all, but it has been a great life. We're on year 20 in the military. My husband is the battalion commander here at Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst in New Jersey. And it's been really great. Lived overseas, did a deployment while I was still in the Army, but I transitioned out after 5 years of active duty, did medical sales for a little while. But like most Army spouse struggles, constantly moving, constantly trying to change, reinvent myself, but also dive into what I'm passionate about and what I love, which is health and fitness, the sports industry, and trying to figure out, where to serve the greater good, like I did when I was in the Army and continued to do as a military spouse for families and children. So yeah, Brian, I would love to open up for questions, or if you want me to talk more about something specific, please let me know.
Yeah, can you give us a little, so everyone knows, just a little brief history of your service,
Okay.
up to the point, like your decision points on getting out, separating?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit, didn't we? So, West Point grad, I married my classmate, thought we were going to serve forever. I think that when you graduate from there, you really think that's your commitment. But family life changed our perspectives. We both deployed, did 15 months in Iraq in 08, 09, came home from that, went separate ways for the captain's career course. So we weren't deployed to the same spot in Iraq. So we didn't see each other during the deployment, came home, spent 7 months apart. When we did get together again down at Fort Polk in Louisiana, our brigade was deploying to Afghanistan for a year, but I was pregnant. So I got pregnant with our first child. My husband left for the year right after we gave birth to her. So I did do a year in the Army at the end on rear detachment. I was the executive officer for that. while also trying to figure out how to be a mom for the first time and, support my husband downrange as well as the unit. So when he came home, it was kind of, my turn to then go. And I was at the 5-year mark where I kind of could make a choice. Ben really loved his deployment as much as you can love a deployment. But he had a really good time as a company commander with his team. He really wanted to keep going in the Army. And I knew for us to continue having children that this was going to be tough. And we had to make some sacrifices. And so ultimately, I tried to get a job with the 509th at Fort Polk and work on the joint team for JRTC. Unfortunately, that didn't come through, and my orders kind of came open for Afghanistan, and I decided to stay home and get out and transition. I went through a big chapter there where I felt, like it wasn't my decision. I wanted to stay. I felt like I was kind of forced to alter my course a little bit for the family. And luckily, I found Team Red, White, and Blue. They're a nonprofit. They do a lot of work with veterans, help them exercise, but connect with the civilian community in their communities. So I linked up with them, and they gave me a couple leadership roles, put me to work, helped me serve, but also connected me to the community. And I got my job in medical sales. And it took time, but over that course, I did have more kids. I had my 2 boys, and, looking back and my faith journey too, I know that I might not have had more children if we would have kind of kept going where we were. And I'm so grateful for that chapter for Team Red, White, and Blue. They really instilled this service mindset in me that I didn't necessarily need, a captain rank or, we were going for major back then. I didn't need rank to lead. I didn't need title. I didn't, I could serve no matter where I was, and I could show up as Lindsay Hartig no matter what the position I was in. So we did move after that. And so I had to leave my medical sales job, but I had a great boss in medical sales. And she sat me down and she was like, Lindsay, I know that your heart might not be in pharmaceuticals. And I was like, well, you're probably right, Phyllis. And she said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I love helping people and I love the mission here, but I want to be around sports. Like, that's what I want to do. I was a cross country track and field athlete at West Point. I got recruited to go to West Point. My cousin was a football player at West Point. So I had loved football, my whole life growing up. My husband is a huge soccer fan. His whole family his dad's from Mexico. So they all are really excited about FIFA coming up. So I knew I wanted to be around sports, either with sales, marketing, communication, something like that on the business side. And so she really encouraged me with our next move to dive in and explore that and see if I needed like certifications or if I needed to go back to school or what could I do to kind of separate myself, not just as a military, war veteran, but kind of get a leg up. And so we moved to Hawaii. So who wants to work when you get stationed in Hawaii finally? No one wants to work. And so we moved to Hawaii, but also COVID came. And I think all of us, had to make choices with COVID. And I ultimately decided to homeschool all 3 of my children that year rather than going back and getting my master's degree done. So I homeschooled them that year, and I loved it so much, I decided to do it the second year. And so we did it 2 years, and then we got orders for Australia. I just thought, again, back on my faith journey, like, God, where are you going with this? Like, when is it going to be my turn to lean in? This is still on my heart. This is still my goal and my passion and what I wanted to do. But I just didn't see the doors necessarily opening. I applied to a couple programs online. I'm from Florida, so I've always been a Gators football fan. When I was at West Point, it was kind of the Tim Tebow era, so it was really fun to watch as a cadet. And so I applied there and got into their sport management program, and they were, leading the way, sport management across the country. I think that year they were number 1. They're in the top 5 for sport management programs, and so I signed up, and in Australia, I did my master's degree. all from across the world. And I did it online and was able to complete that. And that was an incredible journey, learned a ton, but also a ton while stationed in another country, because, you know, they're all about rugby and cricket and all these different sports that I had never heard of, like netball. And so it was really neat to bring perspective as an American to the program, but also, you know, a world view, and ultimately finished studying the Olympic Games and FIFA with University of Florida before I finished. And when we got home back, Ben got battalion command here in Jersey. You know, being so close to Philadelphia, I immediately applied to basically the sport complex, which is phenomenal down there in Philly. You know, you've got the 76ers, you've got the Flyers, but also Phillies baseball, and then, you know, the Eagles for football. So I applied to all of them and was lucky enough to get a call back from the HR, the talent acquisition from the Eagles, while I was in Australia. And she was like, "Hey, we don't have any jobs, but would you be willing to do this part-time, you know, role with our game day and help our fan experience?" And I was like, "Of course, let's do it." So when I got home, I actually started with Eagles before Ben even took command.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So two things. One, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat and I'll ask it off the chat, or just raise your hand and I'll call on you. And then two, Lindsay, are you good if I put your LinkedIn information in the chat
Oh, please.
for
Yes.
everybody to connect if they want to connect? So question so when you got out, like, and I know there are dual military in Seven Eagle, like, what was the challenge for you to go from active duty to, I mean, you serve when you're a spouse, regardless if you're active duty or not. I mean, it's one of our toughest jobs. But what was the biggest challenge from you going from active duty just to full-time military spouse?
Just, you know, I had always thought that we were going to do the military thing, Brian. So it was like, well, now what? I think I really struggled, and I wish I would have plugged in more to these transition teams back then that could have kind of opened my mind to ideas and places. I went to a veteran service academy career conference, and that's where I met medical sales, and they had known some people at Team Red, White, and Blue that had worked there. And that's kind of how I got connected and took that first role. But I didn't really explore what I wanted to do after the military, because that's what I thought I was going to do. So maybe that was the hardest, really doing some soul searching and taking time while, you know, my kids needed me when they were young and babies.
Yeah. When you got your degree, like a lot of people who come on and talk on Seven Eagle, you hear it's kind of a common thread where they say, right place, right time. I got lucky in this. And not all of us are, you know, walk into the right thing or are lucky. Like, you had challenges going into the birds, right? I mean, didn't it take you a while to get through?
Yeah, this hasn't been easy. It's been an incredible role to work on my character and to say that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. You know, I want to serve, and I want to be a servant leader and help others. And like I shared earlier, that was something I learned really early on. It didn't matter about title or rank or anything like that. Like, I wanted to be in those roles. And here with the Eagles, you know, I started out just as a concierge staffer for fans, you know, greeting them basically, and kind of living this mission of a clean, safe, friendly environment at the link. I tried to meet as many people as I could. I think you've got to say yes when you come into the sport industry, and you've got to be willing to learn multiple roles, but also know yourself well, which I think is hard for a lot of these, you know, recent transitioning veterans. Like I said, about who I was when I was 28 years old and got out versus who I am now at 43. I think that if you can do some soul searching and know what you want to do, if it's community relations, or if it's, you know, working with sales, or if it's working in marketing, that's just the business side of football, right? You've got also the whole football operation side too, which I'm not even, you know, I don't know a ton about. Even in a year and a half, I haven't worked with a lot of that team on that side. But that's a whole nother part of the business. But it's really small. There's only about 200 full-time staff that run operations and football operations at Lincoln Financial Field. It's not a big team. And so there's so many people that are part-time, that are contracted in. I mean, probably 10 times as much people, right? 2,000 of us that come in for game day, or that come in for events throughout the year, for the concerts in the summertime, or like I said, FIFA's this summer, and that's kind of already, we're already spinning for that a little bit now that we're into the playoffs. But yeah, it's just so many people outside to make that game day run outside of the full-time staff. And I haven't broken into full-time staff. And so I would say that I'm still on my journey, right? I still haven't broken into it, but also you can't give up. You got to keep doing it, and you got to show up with who you are and know your values, and just they're gonna love on you for what you bring as a veteran to the team. No doubt about it. And like you said, when you did my intro, like, I had no idea this salute to service thing was coming my way, but because I just showed up as me and gave it my all, like, it's incredible to be at that stage. I mean, there's only 32 teams in the NFL, and I'm one of those people, you know, alongside McCaffrey, coming to the stadium next weekend. So hopefully we win that game. But, you know, McCaffrey is one. Most of the time it's players or coaches that are nominated for these awards for what they do for the military communities. So for them to really select a veteran out of the staff is a big deal. And so we can still show up and make impact.
Yeah, I was going to say that's so amazing. Like Jordy says it all the time. Like, we as transitioning service members and vets bring such a unique brand and blend to these potential companies out there, and you're just proof to it. You show up to the birds, you do you, right, and then all of a sudden you get an honor like that, which is just amazing. Like everyone in Zoom today, like all transitioning service members, vets, they have that. We have that inside us, and it's just proof of concept to see you do it, which is just inspiring for everyone in the Zoom today. It's just awesome.
And, it's like we were saying earlier, Brian, it's not something you want. We don't want that recognition at all. Like, I kind of shy away from it. I get a little bit uncomfortable, right? Because who am I? My husband served 20 years, deployed multiple times, constantly. He's TDY right now. So he's gone from the family, So what is my service when we weigh it, right? And I think it's just about leaning in and showing up, and a lot of gratitude. I think that, showing up is a big deal. Being the first in the door, last out the door is a big deal, which we're used to in the Army, in the military. But yeah, it's been those type of moments I've had with the team. You can't put a salary or a paycheck on that. They have been moments that I'll remember my whole life. So,
What attributes do you think you took from West Point and then your time active in the Army that you brought in with you to the Eagles organization?
Yeah, I think they need leadership, right? The sports industry really needs leaders, and we all bring that to the table. And when I say leadership, I mean it mostly with servant, like the servant leadership type. But I think that was the biggest part for me. Just when I came in as a contractor staff, they were like, "Oh, we'll let you do this for like 2 more games, but then can you be a supervisor like right away?" And they're like, "And maybe don't tell everybody, because sometimes that takes a year for people to kind of lean in as supervisor, but we know that you would be perfect for this, and we really need extra hands on deck. So will you lead?" And it's like, well, yeah, I was made for this. Let's go. I love caring for people, and showing up and taking accountability when things go bad, and letting my team have all of the praise when things go right. Right. And so these are things that we learned when we were in the military, because we had great leadership, and there are great leaders at the Philadelphia Eagles as well. I will say that I have come across incredible people on the staff, especially the front office. The VPs and whatnot are just amazing, an amazing team. When you win the Super Bowl, though, everybody stays, you know, so it's really hard to get a job there and work full time. But yeah, I think leadership has a lot to do with it. I do think that showing up, like I was saying, you know, being okay with being the first there, the last to leave, says a lot. I think people are constantly trying to, you know, get out of there early because it's long shifts. You know, we're there for 14 hours yesterday. So it's a long shift, and then everybody's there Monday morning, right? So knowing that that staff is going to be there Monday morning and I'm not, I'm here, you know, sipping my coffee, chatting with you guys. I'm going to try and do whatever I can to help them make it easier on game day. I think that goes noticed. Yeah, building trust. I think that comes with time. And Philadelphia, like the fans are who work there on part-time, right? So they are all like the super fans of the team. So coming in, and I'm sorry for all the Bird fans on the call today. My husband was born in Boston. And so I've had to deal with that for 20 years of marriage. And so I slowly, you know, replaced his Patriot hats with like Eagles hats throughout the year, throughout the season last year under the Super Bowl. And he has a Hurts jersey now, so he's on board. But I was an Eagles fan before I came here. And so, you know, kind of seeing that was eye-opening as well, that they want an experience when they come to work too. And so it's trying to elevate it for them as their leader, to make them have fun and make it enjoyable. And, you know, you build trust then because you're there to care for them.
Awesome. Go ahead, Jordy.
Yeah, Rach, I absolutely love your story. I love your attitude. I love how you are sort of like just getting after it every day. And you took this job to work in game day operations, and I know it must have sucked. It wasn't the job you wanted. It wasn't a full-time thing, but you weren't afraid to take a chance on yourself. And I hope everyone can gain some value from her journey, because there is no doubt in my mind you will be on that C-level staff of the Eagles or some other sports organization very soon because of your attitude. Can you talk a little bit about that? I know it's not, because it's probably challenging. It's tough at times. You're like, oh, I'm working so hard. I'm so, you know, and why can't I have this? But you're not giving up on yourself.
I'm human, Jordy, right? I mean, we're all human. We all want that role, that goal. And I would not be honest with you guys if I didn't say that there's been moments where I thought, should I walk away from this? Like, why am I here? What am I doing? You know, I graduated, went back to school, got my master's degree, and my GI paid for a little bit of that, but I would like to have a job to kind of supplement it, right? And this part-time job is not that. And so I have wrestled and I have prayed a lot about, I told them from the first day that when I showed up, like, what do you guys need done? I'm the one to do it. Let me know. Like, I will lean in. What role do you want me to take? Where do you want me to lead? What, you know, now I'm in controlling a FanDuel lounge. It has 500 people that come through. We have all the players go in and out. It's an incredible night, you know, on game day. And it's been slowly me walking to get there. But it's because I kind of said and showed up and told them that no matter what role I get, I will do it the best I can. So I did apply, and to, you know, all those new transitioning veterans on the call today that are maybe the 5 or 8 years and transitioning out, there is the NFL wide does a great program called Seasonal Associates, where you can apply for a 1-year contract basically for the season, and you get to learn the inside and outside of any of the departments. So I had applied to our fan experience, community relations, and our corporate partnership as well. And so you can kind of put your name in the hat for 6 jobs, but there are close to 40 seasonal associates that cycle every year out of every single NFL team. Those jobs normally come open in February, like right after the Super Bowl, you can apply, but you got to know somebody. And so my LinkedIn's right there. Let me know if you apply to the Eagles one. So that's really important to use your network to get your resume seen, but also it's newly transitioned within 18 months from the military, and it's definitely catered towards, 20s, 30s, first time job in sport industry. And so I did apply to that, and I did have some interviews. And when I didn't get the job and didn't get selected, I had to, look internally and reflect and say, this isn't my path, and that's okay. I did cry for a day, and then, kind of put my big girl pants on and said, I'm going to keep doing this. And just, have that mindset. And you have to, no matter what industry you're looking at. I think it's really important that, all of us kind of have this positive outlook, and that, I learned a lot from medical sales. I learned a lot from being, a homeschool teacher for my kids, and I'm learning a lot now. And it's just going to mold us to be, for that next role, I guess. Waiting for it.
I love it. No doubt you are going to get there. And just sometimes it takes longer than any of us want or hope, but you're doing everything right. And I love it. I love your story.
Well,
And
thanks
your
for letting me
attitude.
share. If anybody has questions, I'd love to talk to some of you.
If anyone's interested in sports management or just have any questions on any topic for Lindsay, let's raise the hands and take advantage of
While we're waiting, can you talk a little bit about networking? Because I could tell you're really good at that. Like, what are some of the skills or the tips you have for people to, to build their network, to go out and meet? Like, you're working alongside people all day long, and how do you do that? What should they do?
Yeah, I've always been pretty gregarious and felt comfortable in room settings. I don't feel uncomfortable in awkward situations very often. So I do think that helps, but you do have to step outside your comfort zone when networking. A lot of it is cold. You might not know the person on LinkedIn, but I think if you can introduce yourself as a veteran, lead with that and tell them your interest. Most people, in my experience, have been really willing to share, and everybody wants to talk about their story. Everybody's willing to talk about themselves. Maybe not on a group setting like this and share and be vulnerable, but one-on-one, most people in the sport industry want to share their journey. So I would just, that would be the first thing that I would ask. Would you just share me your story of how you got to where you are, and just let them talk, and then maybe try and have a question lined up. I wouldn't say I've been perfect at the follow-up piece of networking. Now that I've kind of been on LinkedIn for over a year, I think that it is important to kind of circle back with them, especially if they connected you to someone. I always try and say, oh, thank you. I finally connected with this third party or this person, and then kind of just keep that connection going. Networking as far as, so when I first emailed Colleen, I emailed C schools at Eagles NFL, Colleen schools at Eagles NFL, COLSCOLE. I emailed like 10 different emails cold from Australia to see if I could get this woman to email me back. I was like, I just gotta get my resume in front of her. Like, maybe she'll help me get an internship, And so I was really surprised when the 9th email worked. You just got to get creative, use a little bit, put yourself out there. And then these opportunities too are so great when we can connect. I mean, when Brian reached out, I was like, of course, this is as much for me as it is for you guys, to hear my story. And so I'm really excited to connect with the team here.
Ashley, go ahead.
So, hi, how are you? Thank you for coming, by the way.
Hi, Ashley.
Being present. I have a question. So, did you actually had the degree for sports medicine when you got out and decided to leave the military, or do you actually had to get your sports medicine degree?
I went back to school 10 years later. So I didn't. Like I said, I went through this big journey of kind of self-discovery, living abroad, worked in a couple different industries, and then finally said, I really care about getting my master's degree, and I think I'm ready to go back and use my GI Bill. So I went back to school later in life. But when I entered with the Philadelphia Eagles, I was in my last semester. So when I had reached out to the HR, director, I had asked her for an internship because all of my professors had kind of encouraged me to wait till I got back to America and left Australia and kind of use my student title to kind of get my foot in the door with one of the sport programs in Philly. And so that was my initial reach out, was for an internship. And she was like, well, you're kind of different than our normal interns. I don't think, this is the great fit. And oh, by the way, we don't have any. But if you would be willing to kind of lean in as a part-time, for fan experience, you can meet some people. Would you be willing to come on board? And so I took the fan experience concierge job thinking I was going to do it for the summer. And then I was going to graduate and then get a full-time job. And here I am a year and 4 months later.
That's awesome. So did you reach out to the hiring manager, or how did that came about?
I did. Yeah. So I Googled, I just went online and Googled different people that work at the Eagles, if they had email addresses on Google. And I saw a couple different ways that they did it, like their first initial, last name, and then I was like, okay, so who's the talent manager? I found her on LinkedIn. I sent her a message, but she didn't respond to me for a month. And so I was like, okay, I've got to email this lady. And so I emailed a bunch of different emails and one worked, and she wrote me back. And that's how I actually leaned in for the part-time job with her.
That's awesome. Thank you.
That's funny. That's how I tried to link up with the Cardinals out here in St. Louis. Was just like, oh wait, your first name last at, okay, boom, 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 boom. Ariana, go ahead.
Hi, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time today. I just have a quick question, kind of following up from Ashley's question. So do you think that a degree in sports management is a requirement to be in that field? I know it probably definitely helps, but do you think it's a huge difference having a sports management degree versus
That's such
a different degree?
question. That's such a great question, Ariana. And I do feel like I've heard this come up a lot of times, because most of the people that work at the C level, they don't have master's degrees in sport management at all. I think this is something that was probably new and launched within the last decade across the universities. It's very up and coming. And honestly, they really value people with journalism backgrounds, people with, social media backgrounds. So I don't think it's a requirement at all. Now, but having said that, and going through a program and learning all that I did, I absolutely loved it. It was phenomenal for me. It never felt like school or work. I enjoyed all my professors connecting. I had great opportunities because of my program. So for me, I will never regret going back to school in my 40s and doing that. But yeah, I think a lot of people that are trying to get in after their bachelor's degree, they think they need that master's degree or they need that sport management. And I would say no, absolutely not.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So for those interested in sports management or getting in with a professional team of any sport, really, Lindsay, what's it like working for, well, one, the world champs, but a professional football team?
What's it like? I think that we're all fans of something for the most part, right? And so you have this childhood fantasy of oh, I'm going to be at the stadium and it's going to be just phenomenal, right? Kind of like how I felt or probably more my husband, when he thought he was going to be a soldier, when he was a kid and wanted to, be in the Army. It's not like that. Behind the scenes, it's a lot of grunt work. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. It's a lot of, operation heavy. It's not a lot of, in the spotlight, which I enjoy because it feels more like service, like I'm doing something for our guests and for our fans. But last night's game, I never saw the field once. I was constantly here, there, bing, bing, bing. We had somebody go down for medical. I'm responding to that. I had to do the wheelchairs. And then I had to man the crowd management for one of our VIPs that came through our lounge. So I'm like constantly with him dealing with autographs and fan management and people getting upset because they were cut out of line, or, you know, calling in fan recovery for this, or so I'm jumping around a lot. But what I say is, you know, I think that we all have this great allure to sport industry, and it definitely starts with our love and our childhood, possibly, you know, upbringing for being a super fan of the Philadelphia Eagles. Like I said, most people that are there are fans and grew up as fans and are Philadelphians. So trying to make them have a good experience too is important to me, but also being realistic that we're there to do a job.
What's the coolest thing in the fan experience realm have you experienced?
The flag as a veteran is
Oh, you
really
did the flag, yeah.
Yeah, being able to walk the flag out. I mean, we have one of the biggest flags because it stretches the whole field, and that's really neat. And then we have an eagle that flies over the flag before the national anthem, which is an amazing event. And you just can't not get goosebumps and feel like that patriotism that we felt, you know, kind of after September 11th, that you just walked down the street and saw flags everywhere. It just feels like that moment. Like, this is the American dream that we all fought for, and these people are living it. And it's so cool to be present for that. And I wish I could see that every game day because I would love it, but I've done it once. So that's a really cool moment. I think the fans, you know, the fans really love connecting with the players. So making that special when the players are tired, or like when they lose last night, it's really hard to, you know, they don't always want to do autographs, and explaining that to little kids that are there to see their hero. So there are, you know, really special moments throughout. And I think that we're selling a feeling at the link, you know, that feeling is why we're sold out every game. The Eagles are the only one, I think, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure we're the only team that's sold out for the season across the NFL. We don't sell tickets. So they're all resell. If you want to go to an Eagles game, you can't buy a ticket before the season starts. So it's really, you know, that emotion. And then they really tied it in. Jeffrey Lurie, the CEO, really tied it in when he came in and sat down with Tina, the VP, and they talked about the greater good. And they shared this on one of our networking calls. They shared that, you know, they really wanted to lean into the Eagles Autism Foundation and really bring that out and connect the community to something that was powerful and more than football, and bring football away from the field. And I think it's only been going for like 5 or 6 years. I'm not sure how long. EAF might be a decade now that Ryan Hammond has been leading that charge, but they just do phenomenal work, and it's incredible to be, you know, connected with that bigger piece of the organization, and the fans love it. And so they do, you know, all of off season is about Eagles Autism Foundation. So once the games are over, they really run big operations around that, do a challenge, bring all the players to go bike with people in the community, but also work with CHOP, the hospital. It just makes you feel good that you're a part of that greater good when you're there.
Jason Kelsey down the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, sorry. I should have mentioned him first. Sorry. The Kelseys are phenomenal. They're also super tall. I had to bring them into the elevator once, and Kylie had to like duck down into the elevator. I was like, I never knew you were so tall. Their children are going to be huge people. So really nice. They're a really great family.
Are there, again, I'll fanboy out and geek out here about the Eagles. So you'll have to listen to me for the next 15 minutes or so. But if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and put them in chat, or just raise your hand. Are there a lot of vets that work for the Eagles?
Yeah, you know, Salute to Service Month is across the National Football League, and they do a big push in November, you know, around Veterans Day, and they bring all the veterans into the bowl. We did like a big photo. So there were probably over 100 of us that got together. And they kind of celebrated our service, but connected us all. And, you know, many programs do, you know, more or less depending on what their, you know, goals are. And like I had shared, the Autism Foundation is a huge thing for the Eagles. I am connected pretty well with Chris Bailey down at the Commanders. He's been a great mentor for me since I started this journey in the NFL, but he runs all the operations, military operations for Washington Commanders, and stood up that, works really closely with the USO. And I think they have a whole lounge in their stadium that he does on game day. But he was, I think, 25 years in the Navy, and that was his transitional job that he got. So he's a huge success story, you know, for a lot of us, you know, trying to break in and pave a way. But, you know, the Commanders are at the heart of our country. And so they do a lot with the military down there, more so than I'd say, you know, the focus is up here.
Now, sports management, working for a professional team, obviously you're getting ready to transfer and head down to Hampton Roads, right?
Yeah, you know, so Ben, my husband, he got offered the job at Temple to be the primary military officer, PMS, I think, whatever the ROTC equivalent is. And we decided to turn it down because he also got offered a joint job down in Norfolk, Virginia. We don't have orders yet, but, you know, that was like, again, one of those moments of, you know, us praying together and talking about our journey. You know, we've sacrificed so much to get here where we are in his military career, but also for our country. And so this pull for me to want to work and stay in Philly and do this sport thing and all this networking and all this heart that I've poured in, it's like, well, let's take the Temple job. That's easier. You know, it can keep us here. But ultimately, I think, you know, we really did some reflection, and I reached out actually to Norman. He is the fan experience vice president, and I asked him for his advice. You know, I said, what do you think I should do? You know, I still haven't really got my foot in the door yet. I'm right there, you know, like I know the opportunity is gonna happen, but do I, you know, have Ben make this choice for me and continue and help him then transition out of the military when he's ready, or should we, you know, go down to Virginia? And his advice that I'd love to share with the group here was, Lindsay, you got to stay flexible, just like you did in the Army when you moved here and took the job. And when you moved there, like that's the sport industry. He said, I know you look at all of us at the Eagles and you see us all here for 5 to 10 years. You know, we have a lot of longevity, but other NFL teams are not like this. You know, this is something a little bit unique up here. And then he's like, now that we won the Super Bowl, like no one's going to leave for 4 or 5 years. You know, we're not going to have a big hiring push where you're going to have to go to the Vikings or you're going to have to go out to the Niners and be able to be flexible and work. You know, if you want to do community relations, we'll get you in the door, but it can't be just, you know, Ben taking the job at Temple. So you have to only knock on our door to get it. And I thought that was such great and real advice. It's hard to take sometimes, you know, when we asked for it, like we want it, but then it was like, oh, can you just give me the job, Norman? Like, I just want to work here, you know? But it was also, you know, that's our relationship and friendship that it says a lot that I've been able to grow with him in just a year and a half and be able to just phone call him. Right. Just cold call Norman and he answers because it's me, you know, and so that means a lot to me too. So, yeah, that was a long story to answer that question. I think we just have to be flexible, but also know that, you know, there's going to be sport rules in Virginia and Ben wants to keep doing this. And this is what we signed up for. And this is, you know, we've taken this journey for 20 years together and we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, no, I'm not in Norfolk anymore, but you know, we have the Admirals and the Tide, so you know, you'd rock either one of them, and they get a lot of fans there. So, did you do the playoff run last year to the Super Bowl?
Right. Yeah. So we had we got the 2 seed last year. So we had those first 2 locked in, and then we ended up playing the NFC championship game at home. So I worked all 3 games last season. And so this weekend, well, next weekend is the wild card game at home. We're really excited about, and the energy just elevates, it's a different feel in the playoffs than the regular season. So I'm really excited to do that again.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, we're used to like being home ported in Norfolk or wherever, and it's, the daily life. And then all of a sudden we're prepping for deployment and we go. So we got to pick it up, whether you're deploying or hitting another port or, putting together a fob or whatever the case may be, is regular season to the playoffs. Like, you got to pick it up like you would getting ready for a deployment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what I thought.
It's a different level. Everybody's going to be working Monday through Saturday, like nonstop this week, getting ready for that Sunday night. So, and we want to, right? We want it to be bigger. So we're doing the work ourselves. We're putting the work on ourselves, but you want to elevate that experience for the fans for sure.
Now, every question and every comment that you've made, you've offered some sentiments of advice to everybody on the call. So, wrapping all that up, what advice would you give to everyone on the call, whether it's just getting out and transitioning to the civilian life, no matter what job or what career they want to focus on, or sports management, just all encompassing? Like, what the only real bird is a falcon. All right, Chris is out. Go ahead and delete him off of anything. No, what advice would you give to these transitioning service members and vets on their next phase of their careers in life?
He has so much to give, and no matter where your heart is leading you, I understand that family commitments and supporting yourself is going to be, where you might have to go at first and take that role. Kind of like I said, I kind of needed that medical sales job to kind of just prove to myself, that I could continue to work in corporate America. And I took that job, and it was great because it kind of set me up for later and to be able to work with people and do cold calls. And so, yeah, I think that, no matter where you lean in, thank you for your service. Thank you for the sacrifices you made, and know that those experiences have gotten you ready. You're completely capable of, doing these jobs across our country and leaning in with the civilian world. And it's going to be so great this next chapter. Just trust your gut and, lean in with one another. The more, people you can have in your network, the better.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'd also like that, and just don't be discouraged if you don't get the job right away that you want or the position that you want. I will say, for me personally, I did 30 years Navy, got out as an 05, and I thought that my 05-ness would transition easily to, like, the head of the St. Louis Cardinals security, or like, director of security under the, VP of security for, whoever. And it doesn't always happen that way. So don't be afraid to start lower to build yourself up higher, because like Lindsay did, she went in there, just started doing her job that was natural to her with the experience that she had in the service. And then she's nominated for, salute your service, which, if I'm not mistaken, that's normally not for you. That is for like players and senior executives, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's amazing. So we all have that in us. But discouragement is real. So you got to fight to not be discouraged.
We're all human, and I think it's just having that circle and the mentors to kind of help, you lean into that and be realistic, but also, know if this is something you want to do, that, your door will open.
Yeah.
So keep on pushing.
All right. Well, if there's not any more questions, we're going to go let Lindsay, they're all talking football in the chat. let Lindsay get on and prepare for the Eagles playoff game this weekend. So, Lindsay, I really appreciate your time. I look forward to talking to you after this. I'll hit you up and we'll discuss another time to come speak or whatnot. And yeah, appreciate it.